Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And now that we have reached the final login to get Tsubasa's dupe, assuming you've been playing since this meta came out, this is the time where you would get her final dupe. We have Tsubasa at level 120, which means we are finally ready to showcase her in her optimum setting. She is light, she's on magic, she's on the Pretty Sparkle category alongside World of Fantasy and the free-to-play category, the Flashback Beatdown Emissary. She uses a hammer, which technically she has her own free-to-play gear. It's just that mine is not maxed out for hers, so I'm not going to use it because I haven't really been getting a lot of currency for it. I don't even know where it is right now, but yeah, so she does have free gear. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use this light hammer that I took, I think, from Groom Rimuru or something. But let's talk about what she does. She is not an EX unit, so she does not get any of those special EX ults. She's 290%, lowers counterattack power on the enemy by 15% for 2 turns. Not really that impactful, but yeah, she's a free-to-play unit. What do you expect? Her first skill, 30 points. Increases Pretty Sparkle and World of Fantasy characters' attack by 10%. And every time you get hit with an enemy ult, it goes up by 10% to a cap of 60. Now, if the enemy is a single target ult unit, then it's going to go up 10% every time you take an ult. Doesn't matter who gets hit. As long as someone gets hit by it, you will gain an extra 10%. And this does count even if Tsubasa is in the back. So if she's never seen the front line, and you get hit with 5 ults, and then you bring her in, this will be at 60%. Also, a thing to note is that if they do an AoE ult to you, and so they hit all 3 frontline characters, this will count 3 separate times. So if you have her at 10, you take an ult on the first turn, and it hits 3 people, the next turn, this will be at 40%. Right? So that also counts in the back. So in theory, it can only take 2 turns for this to be capped out at 60% if the enemy is AoEing you, like Conquest Ifrit, like the current beatdown battle for the Idolmaster collab. Like, these are AoE ults, and you can get this raised up pretty fast. And it's only 30 points for a 60-point attack or 60% attack buff, but it is only for these 2 categories. And then on top of that, it lowers the enemy's defense by 10%, which is, fine, whatever. Her second skill is a special convert for greens, so 1 blue and 1 orange into 2 greens. She has the 20% skill point increase on greens, which I don't really... meh. I'd rather have gauge increase across the board, but, skill points, sure, fine, whatever. Her Valor trait, if you so choose to use her, she nerfs blue orbs by 10% if you send 2 orbs. And then her actual trait, when you send a 4 combo of greens, she gets an extra 9% guard rate for herself or whoever she's attached to for support, which on this specific team is not really that important. But yeah. And then she gets extra synergy power with Rimuru Tempest in a battle slot, which Rimuru is the protector, so it is what it is. So overall, she seems to be an okay unit on the Pretty Sparkle team. Outside of that, she's only really going to be used for her special convert for greens, but, we have Traya who does that very well. So I don't know how much use she's going to be because not everyone's on Pretty Sparkle or World of Fantasy. But let's test her out and see how well she works on this new team. Alright, so first we're going to put her on the Pretty Sparkle team with Idol Rimuru, Mirai Shizuka, EX Rain, who's going to work well because she's got the green buff. Also, we need the turn 1 orb change from Mirai because the stage is built for that specifically. And then we've got Lumi, who's going to give us permanent ult damage. So here, because, this is new, she's getting an extra 19% stat increase because of the stage, and they decided to, buff the free-to-play units a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier on people, which is nice. I don't expect this to happen every time moving forward, but, she will look a little bit better here than she would in any other stage. Alright, so starting out, like I said, we need her orb change on turn 1. That's fine. And then this Geld is going to ult us. So what we're going to do is we're going to move Tsubasa into the back and show that she can get more power even if she's in the back. So we'll go ahead and send these orbs, call it good. Nothing really too special here. And then this should be a single target, I think. So we're only going to get an extra 10%, but we'll showcase in a different stage where, you know, getting nuked by an AoE will give you more. So okay, so Mirai took that ult. Alright, cool, fine, whatever. But if we go flip into the skills right here, and we look at her attack buff, it's now at 20% because we took an ult, and it starts at 10, right? So she got an extra 10% even though she was not on the front line, even though she was not the one getting hit. We are still able to increase this attack buff up to the cap of 60 every time somebody on the team takes an ult. So, I mean, that's pretty good right there. But after this, we don't really use her because she's a one and done kind of character. She's going to be used on turn 1 for the orb change, and then you're never gonna use her again because the rest of the team takes over, and because you have to wait for this attack buff to become, you know, its most powerful, you're gonna have to take a few ults. But in order to make that a little bit easier, we're gonna move. Actually, no, you know, we're just gonna move her in for Lumi. It's not the best strategy in the world, but this means that everybody up front will be invincible, which is a pretty good thing with this specific team. So we've got all 3 idols here. We're gonna do the orb change with Rimuru, so that's why she's no longer necessary, right? She has an orb change for turn 1, and then we get Rimuru cooking, and then we never have to orb change again. So Tsubasa, while like on paper looks pretty good, on this team is only there for turn 1 and turn like 9 or 10 or whatever. Except here, you know, we're actually right now. So there we go. We took an ult. We're invincible though. And now we take a look at her attack buff. It's going to be up to 30% because we took another ult. And she was the one that got hit. You know, cool, whatever. But here, actually, it kind of worked out for us. So let's do this orb change. And boom, we actually needed her. So, I mean, that's a good use right there. We'll use the live mode for the greens. We'll use Rimuru again to change the rest of them to greens. We had 4 oranges, so if we had attempted to use Rimuru, he only would have converted 3 of those. So, there we go. She knew it was her showcase. She's coming in hot, trying to make herself look useful. And eventually, we will get to the turn where we can use her full 60% attack buff, and everything will be hunky-dory. So invincible, invincible, invincible. We did not take an ult there, so we are still at the 30% attack buff. But we've got an ult coming in now, so it'll be 40% right there. Let's just go ahead and, I think, send it as is. I think the one thing I've learned most about this team is that you really aren't meant to hold on to the ults. Like, EX ults are cool and fine, and if you get them, then that's awesome. But realistically, because of Mirai's green buff, we're going to have ults every turn. And it's not really good to hold on to them and send like 5 greens or 4 greens and that's it. So until we get an ult swapping unit who can do multiple greens, I think you're better off just sending ults as they come. So here we're again invincible. She took the ult again, but again, we don't take any damage. And now we're going to be up to 40%. So now we just have to kind of chill and wait for us to be ready to go. She's got an ult right here. Doesn't really matter. She's going to lower the counter attack power. Her attack buff is now up to 40%. So 2 more ults is what we need before we are no longer able to increase our attack buff higher. So we'll do this. We don't have a Rimuru next turn, but we did use the future orb hand. I think this turn? Maybe next turn. May have lost track of that. Alright. 22,000 in orb right there. It's not terrible. She is getting some of the stacks from the live mode and Rimuru. So, okay. So here, we're invincible technically, but now we're not invincible. Well, we are now because we have traits. So actually that worked out fairly well. Alright, well, this should be the second to last stack, so let's do this. And then live mode, You know what? We're not going to apply Rimru's buff here. We're just going to take this ult, and it's probably going to hurt a lot. But I just want to do it. So we're almost going to kill him. I don't know if we're actually going to make it to when we're actually capped out on the attack buff here. Yeah, no, we're not. So Mirai's going to kill right here. So cool, we took that. That was a lot of damage. All right, lowered the ult resistance, but now we're up to 50% attack. And we might as well just use it now. So let's get the live mode in here. Let's get more weakness buff. And then we'll go ahead and finish this fight with Mirai's ult. She's good with the heal. And pretty much took care of that entire ult that we just took. And 12% attack, plus the invincibility, plus the orb change. And now Mirai is going to kill this guy, because we got an extra 50% attack on top of everything else. Yeah, 463. That was an easy 7 turns right there. So definitely good for turn 1. A few maybe random turns here and there with you get some bad RNG. She can get you out of that on this specific team if Rimuru is not able to convert everything. But you're really looking for that, multi-nuke or multi-ult hit so you can get that attack buff stacked very quickly. So with that in mind, let's go into a stage that hits you with a lot of ults very quickly, and then we can cap that out in like 2 turns. Alright, so she buffs, her attack buff only goes to Pretty Sparkle or World of Fantasy. But since Mirai is an Earth unit and she's on Pretty Sparkle, we can put her on the Earth 2.0 team with Benimaru, Murin, and Eren, and they have their own tempered edge, and we could probably run this pretty effectively. Mirai's got the stacking attack buff alongside Tsubasa's temporary attack buff. We're going to be fighting Space Leon, who does nothing but ult half the time, so we'll be able to get Tsubasa's attack buff raised quite quickly, and then we'll at least be able to buff Mirai's attack so we can take down, one of them fairly quickly. And then, Mirth Miran's got the heal, the stat swap, which would actually hurt Mirai's case, but also the earth attack. So, I mean, in theory, this works for buffing 1 unit. So, not the best use case scenario, but again, Pretty Sparkle is not a good team, and World of Fantasy, we'll try it out in the next clip after this. Alright, so unlike the last fight, we don't need her turn 1. We need Eren turn 1, which, still, she's the free-to-play unit, but she's also pretty good. We don't really need Isis up front either, so let's go ahead and just swap everybody out, and we'll just send all of our damage against Leon, who's going to ult us like twice, and because it's an AoE, that means that we can get Tsubasa's attack buff stacked up fairly quickly. So this won't be an AoE, but the next one will. And, okay, we have the points, and we have the orb change from Tsubasa, which means that we can get out of this not-so-great hand right here. So we'll bring in Isis for Eren, I guess? Yeah, we'll do that. We'll get the orb change, the green buff, and then we can bring Tsubasa in, and then we can use her orb change, and we're going to take this ult right to the face, but because it's going to hit 3 enemies, instead of 10% like where it's sitting at now, it'll be 40% next turn, and we'll go ahead and not use Benimaru yet, because I want to reset the other skills more than anything else. So we'll just hold on to that for now. Okay. So this team isn't really a good example because it's a defense team and it doesn't really need attack. Okay, that's an interesting hand right there. We can definitely make that work. But here is the first AoE. It definitely hurts a little bit. But now if we check, her attack buff is now automatically up to 40%, right? So it was 10, now it's 40 because we took an ult to 3 characters. So then if we swap her out this turn and bring in Eren, then on the next turn, turn 4, that will be capped at 60% because he's about to ult again, and it's going to hit 3 of us, and he only really needs to hit 2. So, let's use this, let's use this, let's use the future hand, and this should take care of things nice, quick, and in a hurry. Oh, we didn't use the orb change. Whoops-a-daisies. Oh well. Well, we're going to make enough points back anyways off these greens that we'll just send the 4 errands, and I think we'll be okay. Let's send this over there. Yeah, we're almost at 90, 100 points right there. 43k, all right, not great, but she doesn't have any buffs, and she's on a more defense-focused team. All right, but there's the future hand of greens working in, so that worked out very, very well. We do have the continuous heal, and we do have the crit resistance. And now that we've been ulted again, right here, boom. All right, Mirai's looking a little under the weather, but now, because he's hit us 6 times, technically, this is now capped out at the 60% attack buff, which, you know, in theory is nice. I don't know how useful it is, because, again, it's only for very specific categories. If it was more of a 60% attack buff to anybody, then we'd be talking, because the notion of getting hit to gain attack on a skill, I'm not the biggest fan of, because that ult may just straight up kill you, and it's like, okay, well, we're down a unit, but we got an extra 10% attack. Cool beans, right? So maybe not the best thing in the world, but it definitely is something. Definitely something. Let's use the future hand again just to get rid of some RNG. Let's use the live mode as well. So this will get us 12% attack on Mirai and Mirren and Aaron, technically. And we should be able to kill Leon next turn with these ults, because we still have the green buff from Isis, which means Mirai has very close to an EX ult now. Well, okay, 1.5. It doesn't really... You get the idea, though. So, we can take out Mirren. We can use the stat swap here. There's a little bit of a heal. Awesome. Let's use the stat swap ability. So this will give us extra earth attack, plus it'll stat swap. So now we're looking at 12.6k attack. And then we can swap her out for Tsubasa. And then we're going to be able to give Mirai that 60% attack buff right here. Not for Aaron, though, because remember, Aaron is not on Pretty Sparkle or World of Fantasy. But, you know, we're going to help Tsubasa hit quite a bit harder now. And we can take out probably Velzard with this, and then the AoE and the follow-ups will take out Leon. So let's just kind of see that go about. And then we should be done. 92,000, okay, almost killed, but then the AoE will hit both of them. And, alright, so there we go. And then Leon's dead. So, I mean, it works, right? It didn't work for 4 of the other units on this team in that scenario right there, because Tsubasa wasn't ulting. But it definitely made Mirai hit harder, right? Cool, that's what we're looking for. Let's try it on the World of Fantasy team now, or with a World of Fantasy character. Alright, I think for the final part of this video, we're gonna put her on a blue-focused team, but we're gonna use the 2nd anniversary Hinata, because she is on World of Fantasy, and so she will benefit from that attack buff. And we're gonna go in with a bunch of other blue orb changers, and we're gonna fight Crucible 50 Benimaru, who is, for all intents and purposes, a harder version of Conquest Ifrit, now that EX Ifrit doesn't exist. He's got 100,000 HP, he does a bunch of AoEs, he gives himself a bunch of ults in a row, so it'll be very easy to max out the attack buff for Tsubasa, and then we can just have Hinata with her, 40-point element buff, and then the attack buff, and we, theoretically should be able to clear this pretty well. But yeah, well, let's find out in practice how that goes. Alright, we got a good starting hand, so let's bring Rimuru in for Geld, and then we'll use his orb change to get us a bunch of protection gauge. Milim will give us guard, so she'll protect us from the normal attacks, but not the ults. So we could take some damage here, but we do want to, get us that nice attack buff, right? Cheeky counter. He's not that strong. Okay. It's been a hot minute since I took on Crucible 50. Obviously, we wouldn't really need all of the buffs here, but let's go ahead and give us the guard. So we'll protect us from any follow-ups. The ult will still hurt, I don't know if he's gonna live to... We'll send Hinata first. Alright, so cool, we guarded the crit. Alright, yeah, we'll send the weaker characters first so we don't just outright kill him. Obviously, if you're a newer player, this would, not go as well, but there's a hit, 5,000 damage across the board, okay. I just want to get 100 points, or at least max points possible. So that's, 97. That's still enough, so we'll just do this. We do too much damage. Alright, so there we go. There's the 2 AoEs, so now she is capped out at 60%. We'll use the element buff as well, so there's the attack, there's the weakness strike plus the water attack. So now Hinata's got 60% attack, 30% weakness strike, 50% water attack, and this Benimaru is 3,000% dead. But, hey, if we wanted quick 60% attack buff, that's one way to do it. And we'll watch this ult, actually, because I like this animation. They did a good job with these 2 units, even though Shizu is not too great, and Hinata, is pretty good. Pretty good. Her second skill does kind of limit her to orange, but you don't really have to use her in that aspect, like here. 72k. Alright, well, it's not the most damage in the world, but she is an AoE character as well. So, Tsubasa. Free-to-play Tsubasa. How would I rank her on a scale now that we've gone through and seen a little bit of her? I'd probably give her like a 6. Maybe a 6.5. But I think that's about it. Her ult, she's an AoE, she has a pretty useless secondary effect right there. Her attack skill is for a pretty limited category, and then a maybe not quite as limited, but not great category. Having to get ulted to get the attack buff, like if you're not in an AoE stage, this is going to take 5 ults for you to... you need to get hit by 5 different ults. And, for some people, that's not a good thing. You're not going to live 5 ults if you're like a newer player, because you just don't have the gear, you don't have the stats. So this is going to be like 20-30% before you're like either you're out of the fight or you have to nuke before you're about to be out of the fight. The defense down, it's only 10%. The secondary orb change, like it's cool, but if I wanted a dedicated orb changer for greens, we would just bring Trya, right? There's a number of other green orb changers we can bring, because if you're not on Pretty Sparkle World of Fantasy, the skill is useless unless you want 10% defense down. So overall, like she's good for the idol team, and I think she's pretty mid everywhere else. You can definitely find a use for her, but there are probably other options that will give you a little bit more impact than her. But let me know what you guys think of this free-to-play Tsubasa. But that's it for me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.